Put your hands where we can see them. That was the first thing I heard when I stepped out of my car that afternoon. Two men in dark uniforms, flashing what looked like police badges, were standing in my driveway. One had his hand on his holster. I froze, confused. What did I do? I hadn't even been speeding. But as I looked closer, I realized something was off. Their uniforms didn't look quite right. And the badge? Cheap metal, not even engraved. That's when it hit me, these weren't real cops. And when I found out who sent them and why, the truth was so outrageous it made national news. Because the people who sent these fake officers were from my HOA. My name's David, and I live in a gated community just outside Dallas, Texas. On paper, it's a nice neighborhood, well-kept lawns, private security, and a strictly managed HOA. But in reality, it was like living under a dictatorship disguised as a homeowners association. The HOA president, Karen Whitmore, was one of those people who treated power like oxygen. She couldn't live without it. She enforced rules no one voted for: no parking your own car on the street, no barbecue after 8 p.m., no flags, decorations, or even basketball hoops visible from the front yard. If she didn't like you, she'd find a reason to fine you. Unfortunately for her, I wasn't the kind of guy who bowed to that nonsense. The whole mess started when I questioned a massive security fee she added to our HOA dues, an extra $150 a month for neighborhood patrols. I asked to see the invoices. She refused. So, I filed a formal request for financial transparency, something every resident has a legal right to do. That's when the harassment began. First, she sent violation notices for ridiculous things, like my grass being uneven or my trash can being visible for too long. Then, someone mysteriously keyed my car. But the final straw came one evening when a letter appeared on my doorstep saying I owed $3,800 in unpaid HOA fees, and that they'd be taking legal enforcement action. The funny thing was, I'd already paid everything. So I decided to fight back the right way, legally and calmly. What she didn't know was that I wasn't just a homeowner. I was also the chief of police for our county. A week later, I came home from work, still in plain clothes, and saw two black SUVs parked outside my house. As I pulled in, two men stepped out, wearing what looked like tactical gear. "Sir, you're under arrest for defying a court order," one shouted. I blinked. A court order? What court? "Step away from the vehicle." They flashed badges, shiny, but fake. I could tell instantly. The logos were stickers, the handcuffs were cheap knockoffs, and the radio chatter was pure nonsense. Now, most people would panic. But me. I've trained officers for 20 years. I knew real protocol, and this wasn't it. So, I calmly said, "Before I comply, tell me your department and badge numbers." They hesitated. One mumbled, "Private enforcement." Private enforcement? That's not a thing. I slowly reached for my wallet, pulled out my actual badge, and held it up. Chief David Lawson, County Police Department. The color drained from their faces. You two just attempted to arrest a sitting police chief, under a fake warrant, in my own driveway. They froze like statues. Within minutes, I radioed dispatch. Real officers showed up fast, lights flashing, sirens blaring. We detained both men, confiscated their fake badges, and started questioning them right there on the curb. Turns out, they weren't even security guards. They were two contractors from a private repo company, paid cash by none other than the HOA president, Karen Whitmore. She had told them I was a dangerous trespasser living in a property that was in foreclosure, and that she had legal documents authorizing removal. None of it was true. Not a single word. She had literally hired fake officers to intimidate me into paying fees I didn't owe, and to scare me into silence. Well, that plan backfired fast. The next day, I opened a full investigation. The HOA office was subpoenaed for financial records. What we found shocked even me. Karen had been siphoning funds from the security budget to pay for her own expenses: spa visits, luxury dinners, and consulting fees to companies that didn't exist. Over $80,000 of residents' money gone. The private patrol service she claimed to have hired was completely fake. And the two men she sent to arrest me? She'd paid them $400 each to deliver an eviction warning. When confronted, Karen tried to deny everything. She claimed I was abusing my power and targeting her unfairly. But when the evidence came out, the bank transfers, the fake invoices, and even text messages where she bragged about putting the chief in his place, she was done. She was arrested for fraud, impersonation of law enforcement, and harassment. In court, the judge didn't hold back. He called her actions a deliberate abuse of power and a reckless endangerment of public safety. Karen cried, begged for leniency, and blamed everyone but herself. But the truth was undeniable. She'd gone too far. She was sentenced to 18 months in county jail and permanently banned from holding any HOA or board position in the state. As for the community, the homeowners voted to dissolve the old HOA board and replace it with a new, transparent management company. The neighborhood finally started to feel like home again. No fake threats, no secret fees, no one trying to play dictator. And the irony? The same woman who tried to use fake authority to control everyone ended up losing every ounce of real authority she ever had. So what's the takeaway here? It's simple. Authority doesn't make you untouchable. When people like Karen get a taste of power, they start confusing leadership with control. They think rules exist for everyone else, but not for them. They think authority means domination instead of duty. But real power? It's about service, not superiority. It's about doing what's right, not what's convenient. Karen thought she could bend the law to her will. She thought her title, her HOA, and her threats could scare people into submission. But when she sent fake cops to arrest a real one, she didn't just cross the line, she destroyed it. The truth is, integrity always wins in the end. Because lies, intimidation, and abuse of power can only stand for so long before they collapse under their own weight. And when that happens, when the truth comes out, the people who used fear as a weapon end up fearing the very justice they tried to manipulate. So, whether it's a boss, a neighbor, or a self-proclaimed HOA ruler, remember this. Power used selfishly will always find a way to backfire. Karen tried to control the law, but the law controlled her instead. So yeah, that's how my HOA president sent fake cops to arrest me, not knowing I was the chief of police. And in the end, her little power trip landed her behind bars. Sometimes justice doesn't need to chase people down, it just waits for them to trip over their own arrogance. And that's how an HOA president's little game of power ended up blowing right back in her face. It just goes to show, no matter how much control someone thinks they have, the truth always finds a way to come out. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next one. I post new, true, and unbelievable stories every week. Stories that'll make you think twice about how far some people will go for power, pride, or revenge. So stick around, because the next story, let's just say, it's even crazier than this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.